The survival industry has lied to you for decades because they sold you a fantasy where a serrated knife and a tactical backpack makes you a hero, but that is a hallucination that will get you killed in the first hour of a true collapse. Your gear is not your savior, it is just heavy inventory for the person who shoots you. Close your eyes and listen to the sound of civilization breaking its spine, which sounds like the hum of a refrigerator suddenly cutting out, leaving a silence so heavy it presses against your eardrums. The air smells of ozone, uncollected garbage, and the metallic tang of fear, while the temperature drops and you realize the central heating is never coming back on. You are not a warrior. You are a biological reactor losing heat to a universe that wants you at absolute zero, and the city is no longer a home. It is a concrete tomb designed to confusingly trap you. I am going to teach you how to dismantle the trap using the laws of physics, because while society can crumble, gravity, thermodynamics, and fluid mechanics never take a day off, and they are the only allies you have left. The cognitive hard reset. The first casualty of any disaster is not the power grid, it is your ability to process reality, because your brain is currently drowning in a chemical cocktail called the normalcy bias. You are standing in your living room staring at a light switch that doesn't work, clicking it 3 times because your neural pathways refuse to accept the new data, and this delay is where people die. You must immediately override your amygdala, the lizard brain screaming for you to freeze, and engage your prefrontal cortex by forcing a tactical breath, inhaling for 4 seconds to oxygenate the blood and exhaling for 4 to dump the carbon dioxide that triggers panic. Understand that the glowing rectangle in your pocket, the smartphone you have worshipped for 10 years, has instantly transformed from an oracle into a paperweight because the cell towers are dead and the GPS satellites might as well be rocks floating in the void. You are blind, you are deaf, and you are mute, but you possess an internal navigation system that guided your ancestors through ice ages long before Google Maps existed. The grid is gone, which means the electromagnetic noise is gone, leaving you with the raw data of the physical world, so you must stop looking at the screen and start reading the planet. Celestial mechanics and solar geometry. We start with navigation, which is simply the applied mathematics of angles and time, but you have forgotten how to read the sky because you spent a lifetime looking down. During the day, the sun is your primary instrument, a celestial fusion reactor that moves with absolute predictability across the ecliptic, offering you a compass that never runs out of batteries. You will use the shadow stick method, which relies on the fact that the Earth rotates from west to east, causing shadows to move from west to east, so you place a stick in the ground and mark the tip of its shadow. You wait 20 minutes, which is enough time for the planet to rotate 5 degrees, and then you mark the new shadow tip, and the line connecting these 2 points runs strictly east-west. The first mark is west, the second is east, and a line perpendicular to that gives you a true north that is far more accurate than magnetic north because it is not distorted by the thousands of tons of steel and iron reinforcement bars buried in the concrete beneath your feet. When the sun vanishes and the temperature plummets, you must switch to stellar mechanics, looking for the geometric constants of the northern hemisphere. You are looking for Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, specifically the 2 stars at the outer edge of the cup, known as Dubhe and Merak, which form a cosmic vector pointing directly across the void. Extend the line created by these 2 stars 5 times their distance out into the darkness and you will hit Polaris, the North Star, the anchor of the sky that sits almost perfectly above the Earth's rotational axis. This is not just a star, it is a fixed point in a spinning universe, a lighthouse that has saved sailors and refugees for millennia, and now it is your turn to trust the geometry of the galaxy over your panic. While you are looking up, realize that the absence of light pollution means the city is darker than you have ever seen it. But this darkness is a tool that hides you from the predators who have not yet adjusted their eyes. The infrastructure anatomy. A city appears chaotic to the untrained eye, a labyrinth of brick and glass, but to the survivor, it is a biological organism with veins, arteries, and a skeleton that follows the strict logic of civil engineering. You must stop seeing streets and start seeing flow rates because urban planners design these environments to move resources efficiently, and you can hijack these pathways for your escape. The major arteries of any metropolis are its rivers, railways, and highways, all of which are built on the path of least resistance, following the dictates of gravity and topography to lead away from the dense center toward the open periphery. Rivers are the most reliable conveyor belts because water always flows downhill toward the ocean or a larger basin, meaning the current itself is an arrow pointing you toward the exit, provided you understand the risks of the water's edge. However, the surface is a kill zone where line of sight is infinite and cover is scarce, so you must consider the skeletal structure of the electrical grid to guide you without exposing your silhouette. Look up at the high-tension power lines, the massive steel towers that hum with energy, and realize that they always connect the consumption zones of the residential areas to the generation zones of the power plants. These plants are almost exclusively located on the outskirts of the city, far away from the population density that is currently imploding, so following the overhead cables is like following a breadcrumb trail laid out by the power company. On a micro level, observe the smaller cables like fiber optics and telephone lines, which bundle together as they move toward major exchanges, usually located near highway on-ramps and main transport hubs. You are reading the nervous system of the city, tracing the copper and glass wires back to the spinal cord that will lead you out of the paralyzing complexity of the suburbs and onto the open road. Subterranean fluid dynamics. If the surface becomes impassable due to fires, debris, or hostile crowds, you must descend into the Shadow City, the vast network of tunnels that mirrors the world above but operates on the principles of fluid dynamics. Storm drains are the safest bet because they are designed purely for gravity-fed water displacement, meaning they are large, continuous, and inevitably lead to open waterways outside the city limits. You are literally following the flow of entropy, letting the drainage system flush you out of the danger zone just as it flushes rainwater. But you must be acutely aware of the atmospheric hazards. The air down there is heavy, stagnant, and potentially toxic, filled with gases like methane that settle in low points, so you need to move with the caution of a canary in a coal mine. Lighting in the underground is a matter of chemistry, not electricity, and since your flashlight batteries are a finite resource, you must scavenge for chemical potential energy. You are looking for the reaction between hydrogen peroxide and the luminol found in glow sticks, or the oxidation of bleach, but a safer bet is simply scavenging industrial light sources. If you find party-grade glow sticks, do not just crack them and hold them. Cut them open and smear the chemiluminescent fluid onto a rag or the back of your jacket to create a broad, ambient light source that doesn't cast a focused beam. A focused beam alerts predators to your exact location and direction of gaze, while a soft glow merely illuminates your immediate footing, allowing you to navigate the slippery concrete without announcing your presence to the entire tunnel. Mark your path using chalk or scratching into the algae on the walls because the underground is a fractal environment where every turn looks identical and getting lost means dying of hypothermia in the dark. The calorie currency and thermodynamics. Survival is ultimately a math problem where the variable is energy, and you are running a deficit from the moment the crisis begins, so you must treat every calorie as a currency that is rapidly devaluing. Your body is a heat engine that burns fuel to maintain a core temperature of 37 degrees Celsius, and the cold environment is a massive heat sink trying to equalize your temperature with the freezing pavement. You must understand the four mechanisms of heat loss: conduction, convection, radiation, and evaporation, and systematically block each one to preserve your metabolic capital. Conduction is the thief that steals heat when you sit on cold concrete, so you must never contact the ground directly. Use cardboard, newspapers, or debris to create a thermal break that insulates your conduction pathways. Convection is the stripping of heat by moving air, the wind chill that cuts through your clothes, which is why you must seal your layers with a windproof shell, even if it is just a garbage bag stuffed with crumpled paper. The paper creates dead air space, trapping the warm molecules your body generates and preventing the wind from sweeping them away, effectively creating a chaotic lattice of insulation similar to down feathers. Evaporation is the most dangerous because wet clothing conducts heat 25 times faster than dry clothing, meaning that sweating is a tactical error that can kill you as surely as a bullet. You must regulate your exertion to stay just below the sweat threshold, venting your jacket when you climb hills and sealing it when you stop, managing your microclimate with the precision of an engineer. Solar psychology and temporal tactics. Timing your movements is an exercise in behavioral psychology and circadian rhythms, because the chaotic masses of people are still operating on biological autopilot. The majority of the population is diurnal, meaning they are active during the day and dormant at night. But in a crisis, fear drives erratic behavior that spikes at specific times. The safest window for movement is the gray zone, the twilight periods of dawn and dusk when the light is sufficient for navigation but the contrast is low enough to blur your silhouette. At dawn, the nocturnal predators are bedding down and the diurnal masses are groggy, dehydrated, and paralyzed by the realization that the nightmare has not ended. Avoid the noon hour when the sun is at its zenith because the harsh vertical light creates high-contrast shadows that make you easy to spot, and the heat increases your water requirements exponentially. Avoid the deep midnight hour, roughly 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., because this is when the human body reaches its thermal minimum, your reaction times are sluggish, and your cognitive functions are impaired by melatonin. This is also when the true predators, those who have abandoned social contracts, are most active, using the cover of darkness to hunt the unprepared. You must adopt a polyphasic sleep schedule, resting in short, secured bursts during the heat of the day or the pitch black of night, and moving only when the environmental conditions favor your stealth and physiology. Urban chemistry and distraction. There will come a moment when stealth fails and you need to create a divergence, a manipulation of the environment that forces your opponents to look left while you move right. You can weaponize basic urban chemistry to create pyrotechnic distractions using materials found in any kitchen or garage, leveraging the combustion triangle of fuel, heat, and oxygen. Steel wool, which is essentially fine threads of iron, acts as a perfect resistor when touched to the terminals of a 9-volt battery, short-circuiting the current to create immediate white-hot sparks that can ignite tinder or volatile fluids. This is not just a fire starter. It is a delay fuse if you wrap the wool around a battery with a small gap that closes when a tripwire is pulled, allowing you to set a trap that triggers miles behind you. For a larger auditory distraction, you can exploit the physics of pressure vessels by locating aerosol cans, hairspray, paint, bug killer, and subjecting them to an external heat source. The ideal gas law states that as temperature rises in a fixed volume, pressure increases until the structural integrity of the metal fails, resulting in a catastrophic rupture that sounds like a gunshot. Throw a can into a burning trash barrel 2 blocks away, and the resulting explosion will draw the attention of every terrified scavenger in the district, clearing your path through the ensuing confusion. If you need visual cover, remember that road flares burn at nearly 2,000 degrees and produce strontium nitrate smoke that is thick, acrid, and visually impenetrable, creating a wall of red fog that thermal cameras struggle to peer through. Electromagnetic Archaeology. Even when the grid is dead, the ghost of the electromagnetic spectrum remains, and you can act as an archaeologist of frequencies to find the remnants of civilization. An AM radio is a passive receiver that requires very little power, and because amplitude modulation signals bounce off the ionosphere, they can travel hundreds of miles at night. You are not looking for music. You are scanning the lower frequencies for the static crackle that indicates the presence of high-voltage machinery or an active transmitter. Power lines, even when carrying minimal load, emit a 60 Hz hum that can be picked up as interference on the lower end of the dial, acting as a Geiger counter for infrastructure. Walk slowly with the radio tuned to the bottom of the band, and when the static rises in volume, you are approaching a conductive path or a generation source, giving you a sensor that sees through walls and darkness. Cell towers, while inactive for communication, are massive metal structures built on high ground with dedicated service roads that are often kept clear of debris. You can detect them not by signal, but by using a magnetic compass. The massive amount of steel and remaining backup power systems can cause a magnetic deviation if you get close enough. If your needle starts to dance or drift without explanation, look up for the silhouette of a tower, then climb the service road to the high ground where you can survey the terrain and find the path of least resistance. Atmospheric pressure and weather forecasting. The sky is a fluid ocean above you, and reading its currents is essential because getting caught in a storm without shelter strips your body heat 80 times faster than dry air. You need to become a meteorologist of the immediate future by observing the behavior of smoke, which is your primitive barometer. If smoke from fires rises vertically in a straight column, the atmosphere is stable and high pressure is dominant, meaning the weather will hold and you are safe to travel across open ground. If the smoke flattens out and drifts horizontally low to the ground, low pressure is moving in, pressing down on the atmosphere, which signals that a storm front is approaching and you need to find hard shelter immediately. Birds and insects are also sensitive to barometric pressure changes that your dulled human senses miss. If you see birds flying low or grounding themselves, the air density is changing and turbulence is inbound. Swallows and bats hunt insects, and insects fly lower when the pressure drops because the air is less dense, effectively pushing the entire ecosystem closer to the ground before a storm. Conversely, rising pressure brings clear skies but also plunging temperatures at night due to the lack of cloud cover, radiational cooling. So while the day might be beautiful, the night will be a cryogenic test of your insulation. The biological indicators. The city is dead, but the ecosystem is aggressively reclaiming the territory, and the animals are your scouts if you know how to interpret their movement vectors. Rats are the ultimate survivalists, possessing a spatial memory of the sewer systems and food sources that rivals any GPS, so if you see a mass movement of rodents, they are fleeing a hazard or converging on a resource. Follow them from a distance, but understand that where there is food, there will be competition, and the rats are merely the first wave of scavengers. Birds, particularly crows and pigeons, commute daily between roosting sites and feeding grounds. Observe their flight paths in the morning and evening to triangulate the location of water or scavenging zones. Bees are an even more precise indicator because they require flowering plants and water to sustain the hive, meaning a beeline will inevitably lead you to a green space or a park. These green spaces are crucial not just for potential foraging, but because the soil absorbs rainwater, offering you a chance to dig for water that has been naturally filtered through the earth, rather than drinking the toxic sludge in the gutters. However, beware of silence. A sudden cessation of animal noise, the woods going quiet effect, creates an acoustic void that indicates a predator, human or otherwise, is moving through the area. Thermal camouflage and IR evasion. In a modern collapse, the most dangerous threat might not be a person with a gun, but a drone with a thermal camera, seeing your body heat as a bright white beacon against the cold background. You must understand emissivity and thermal inertia to defeat these sensors, effectively becoming a ghost in the infrared spectrum. Your body radiates heat most intensely from the head, armpits, and groin, the areas where major blood vessels are close to the surface, so these are the points you must mask with high-density insulation. The emergency space blanket is made of mylar, which reflects 99% of radiated heat, but if you wear it on the outside, you look like a disco ball. You must wear it under your outer layer to trap your heat signature inside your clothing. Glass is opaque to thermal imaging. A drone cannot see through a window, so staying behind glass partitions in office buildings or bus stops masks your signature completely. To move across open ground, use the thermal inertia of the environment. Concrete and asphalt absorb solar radiation all day and release it slowly at night, creating a hot background that helps your body heat blend in. Conversely, walking across cool grass or dirt makes you pop out like a flare, so stick to the urban hardscape where the residual heat of the city works as your camouflage. If you are cornered, water is the ultimate mask. Splashing water over your outer layer or wading into a stream creates evaporative cooling that drops your surface temperature below the ambient background, rendering you invisible for the few minutes you need to escape. The psychology of the gray man. You must adopt the persona of the gray man, a concept that goes beyond clothing and permeates your entire behavioral psychology. To be gray is to be devoid of interesting data, to slide off the eye of the observer because you present no threat and no value. Do not run, because running triggers the predator chase reflex in other humans. Walk with a deliberate, tired shuffle that mimics the defeated posture of everyone around you. Do not make eye contact, which is a challenge, but do not look at your feet, which is submission. Look through people, focusing on the middle distance as if you are too traumatized to register their presence. Bright colors are tactical errors, but so is full camouflage gear, which screams, "I have supplies worth stealing." You want to look like a walking pile of dirty laundry wearing mismatched, muted colors that break up your human symmetry. Smear dirt and ash on your face not to look like Rambo, but to mask the shine of your skin's natural oils and to cover the healthy glow that indicates you are well fed. You are acting the part of a ghost before you actually become one, using social engineering to hack the threat assessment of anyone who sees you. Mechanical scavenging and leverage. The physical world is locked, but physics provides the key through the principle of leverage and mechanical advantage. You do not need to be strong to breach a door. You need to understand the fulcrum. Most security doors in commercial buildings are magnetic or latched, and a simple crowbar or even a strong piece of rebar applies enough newtons of force to deform the frame and pop the latch. Do not attack the lock, which is hardened steel. Attack the frame, which is often cheap aluminum or wood, using a wedge to concentrate your force on the weakest structural point. For scavenging water from sealed buildings, look for the commercial water heaters usually located in basements or utility closets. These are massive tanks holding 50 to 100 gallons of clean, potable water that remains safe long after the taps run dry. Gravity is your pump here. Attach a hose to the bottom drain valve, open a faucet on an upper floor to break the vacuum, and let physics deliver the water to your container. You are harvesting the stored potential energy of the city, utilizing the resources that others ignore because they don't understand the mechanical systems hiding behind the drywall. The Acoustics of Survival. Sound travels differently in a dead city. Without the dampening curtain of traffic noise and HVAC hum, acoustic waves propagate much further and bounce off the canyon walls of skyscrapers. You must learn to walk using the fox walk, rolling your foot from the outside edge of the heel to the inside of the toe, feeling for debris before committing your weight to avoid the snap of a twig or the crunch of glass. Stay close to walls to minimize your acoustic shadow. Walking in the center of the street allows your footsteps to echo in all directions, while hugging the wall directs the sound into the building or absorbs it. Be aware of the acoustic funnels created by alleyways and underpasses, which amplify and direct sound like a megaphone. Never speak in these zones. Conversely, use these acoustics to your advantage by listening. Press your ear against the steel rails of train tracks or the pipes in a building to hear vibrations from miles away. Sound travels faster and more efficiently through solids than through air, giving you an early warning system that travels at the speed of sound through steel, alerting you to approaching threats long before they are visible. Conclusion: the resilience of entropy. The final lesson is that entropy always increases. The city is falling apart, and chaos is the only constant, but within that chaos lies your opportunity. The structures that restricted you, the laws, the traffic, the fences, are crumbling, creating gaps and pathways that did not exist before. You are not just escaping a physical location, you are surfing the wave of collapse, using your intelligence to adapt faster than the environment can kill you. The darkness is not your enemy. It is a cloak that hides you from the unprepared. The cold is not a monster. It is a filter that removes the weak. You are a fortress of biology and physics, a machine built to survive, and while the city is dying, you are just waking up. Now check your gear, slow your breathing, and move, because the only thing fatal is staying still. Drop a comment below with your plan for the first 24 hours. I want to see who's actually thinking and who's just hallucinating. If this intel saved your life in a simulation, subscribe, because next time we are going to talk about how to synthesize antibiotics from garden trash. Stay sharp.